Hey foodies, welcome into another video. I'm Food, and today I wanted to do something that's kind of returning to my roots a little more. As you know, I love talking about cosmetics. I love talking about the more, I guess, inconsequential side of the game. So what we're going to do is something that actually I think has decent consequence. I want to go through. Please do. Please ignore my my SpongeBob portraits for everybody, but Singularity. They're great, by the way. The artists who made these, they're just so hilarious. But please do ignore those for the time being. What I wanted to do, in fact, we can probably just close that down so you don't spend your whole time looking at that. But I want to go through and I want to grade the base designs of every killer in Dead by Daylight. We're going to do a companion piece where we do this for survivors as well, but for the time being, we're just going to do killers. So this is just going to be about the base cosmetics. We're not going in and we're not talking about my favorite cosmetics, which this would be the one for Trapper that I really like to run. We're going base cosmetics only. So I think that's pretty straightforward. You're smart, you understand. I don't really feel like I have to explain it all that much. So we have a lot of characters to get to. I want to go in and get this crack-a-lackin'. So we're going to start with the Trapper. He is the poster child after all. And immediately what jumps out to me is he's filling a very specific stereotype. He is the lumbering brute of a killer in many ways, even though it's also worth noting that the bear trap adds a certain level of intellectual complexity to him. I feel like in some ways, maybe. He was based off of the 2009 Jason Voorhees, the one that was more of a survivalist. I like this design. As I look at it, I like that he's kind of beefy. He's not action figure like he looks practically strong instead of showy strong in sort of, if that makes any sense at all. The waders are a solid choice. I think, you know, it reflects something about where he's from, even though I guess for me personally, I would have expected waders to be something that maybe a swamp based killer would wear instead of somebody based out of Seattle. That's just me. Maybe that's just me. The mask is obviously not only a big selling point here, but it's going to be a big selling point for most killers. And in the case of Trapper, it's a good mask. You can tell they really wanted to go for something that could become iconic in its own right. I like that the jaw, I don't know if you can see this from this angle, but the jaw doesn't quite meet. It's broken off a little bit, which almost gives him like an Elite from Halo look. That's kind of cool. I like that. That's all right. I think that's a pretty solid look. It's very interesting how the mask is so broken up and it's held together. I'd be curious to know what they were trying to show with that, outside of maybe the ingenuity of the Trapper, or maybe it is the opposite and it's to kind of show it's kind of brutish, kind of thrown together. I don't know. The weapon is one of my least favorite parts of this one. I don't love the shape of it. I actually like it a lot more if you give Trapper just kind of a basic. That's the one with the special colors. But if you just give him almost his Jason Voorhees machete, I think that's a lot better. But again, we're not going off of what I prefer. And when it comes to the base Trapper cosmetic, it's that one, right? No, it's this one. What do they even call it? They call it a cleaver. So it's just like a giant meat cleaver. It's very unruly, and I don't know. It's not bad though. It looks very intimidating. I would hate to be smacked by it, and obviously it's covered in blood, so clearly he's hit somebody. You have a really interesting feature of Trapper with all the scars. You can see those on his arms, I would hope. He's got the metal jutting out of his body, which canonically is because he rejects the entity and the entity punishes him. Kind of interesting. So you're doing some storytelling just through how you're designing this character, which is a nice touch. You do see things like where he's taped up this leg down here. He's got something wrapped around here, presumably for some kind of tears maybe that happened in the fabric. I don't know. Overall, I would say this is a good, very serviceable design. It's not exciting per se. This is not a design that you look at and you say, I've never seen anything like this. This is remarkable. But it's pretty good. I like it. I said I was going to give all these a grade. So for this one, we're going to give it a B. There's really nothing to dislike about it, but there are definitely going to be stronger designs as we go on. Wraith is one who I like a lot of what they went for here. He's made to be a very off-putting character. He's made to be very off-putting in the way that he's kind of got this weird figure going on here. The eyes just peer right through the soul, and even the little pose he stands at, where he's got the arms down by the side and he's leaning over a little. It's very good. It's very good at being off-putting. I do think that I don't even know how to, the tape wrapped around his body here, a little bizarre. I'm not sure I fully understand what they were going for with that one. The weapon's great. I think the weapon is the high point of what the Wraith is going for. I like the cloak. The cloak's all right. It's kind of interesting because when I look at the Wraith, I don't know that as much of his personality pops through in actually what he's wearing, but I do think that, again, his pose is rather good. The weapon itself kind of begs you to ask more, like, where do you end up with a weapon like that? That's clearly homebrewed in some way. Obviously, we know from reading the lore that's Azarov, who he used to work for. That's his spine and skull, which is a really cool weapon. And again, it does have some cool variations of it. I like the one where they just add some spikes to it just because spikes are cool. But again, we're not counting those. We're just going with the base weapons. Yeah, I look at this one and you have to forgive me. I have to take some sips of coffee here and there because I run on coffee. This one's all right. This one's good. I give it a B-. I don't think it's quite maybe as universally iconic as Trapper, but it's not bad. There could be a lot worse designs. Okay, Hillbilly. So Hillbilly is interesting in that he's kind of got this almost this melted cheese looking face. The mouth is always open apparently, which seems wildly impractical. He almost looks like he's smiling from a certain angle. You have these dark slits covering where his eyes would be, and then within that obviously you have these faint little glows. I like that. I like the chainsaw itself. I think the chainsaw looks rather cool. It's got the little hand guard and all that. It's a nice touch. I don't really know about the spikes on the end of it. That seems a little extra, but who knows? Chainsaw people. Is that realistic? Would a chainsaw have that? I don't imagine so, but maybe. Maybe I'll see what I'm talking about. These little spikes here before you actually get onto the main saw. They're kind of subtle, but they are there. His pants are pretty forgettable. Why is he wearing two belts? Why is he wearing two belts? That's just kind of bizarre. I do like that you can actually see the spine through the back here, but it raises certain questions about his anatomy. If his spine kind of running at that angle, it's almost a hunchback type situation that he seems to have going on, which is interesting that they would do that while also making him the speediest killer in the game outside of maybe Blight. So, interesting decisions. I'm going to be honest though. I might make some enemies with this one because I do like the Hillbilly. I think he's great. I think they threw a lot at the wall just to see what would stick. So you have the staples here. You have these welts all over his body. You can see some bones through here. Obviously his face is just all kinds of melted, and then his skin here almost just looks like bark. It looks to me like they threw a lot at the wall. Is it good? Is it bad? It's all right. I just don't know that it quite lands for me. I give Hillbilly's design a C, and he's very angry with me. I'm so sorry, Billy. Next up is the Nurse. So the Nurse it's an all right design. It's fine. I really like the bone saw as a weapon. Bone saw, very cool choice. Really like that. And there is something off-putting about her. She's very creepy in her own right. As you look at her, I would say I would actually like her to be a little more stark in appearance. I would like it to be something where she's a little off-puttingly clean as opposed to the environment around her. But obviously she's very grimy. Yeah, I don't know. I get what they were going for. A very like spoiled beauty type look. I do wish that the mask itself, you can see she's got these stains over her eye, over her mouth, and then a little bit over this eye as well. I wish the stains were a little darker, a little more noticeable, because realistically, if you're being chased by her, you're not going to notice those. You're not going to see it very often. I don't know. I don't dislike the Nurse's design, though. I think she's another B-. It's a fine design. I think, generally speaking, yeah, it's all right. I don't mind it. Huntress. Huntress has a very good design. Huntress, this one, to me, I like that she's this Amazon You know, her stature is just incredible. And not only is she tall, but she's got these very broad shoulders. Very cool design there. Still kind of unlike anything we've seen. We've had other tall killers and other broad killers, but in terms of being as broad as she is and as tall as she is, I mean, who else could stand up there with her? Maybe the Oni, maybe Clown. You know, not many. And even the Clown's a different kind of broad. So I like that. The axe is simple. You know, there's not a lot that's going to, you know, I can't give her many creativity points for it. But, and I do apologize. I'm sure you hear my chair creaking. I need to get a new chair. I know. I've been saying that for like 2 years now. I do think that I think that the actual axe it's not much of a needle mover. It's not something that I say, oh yeah, oh wow, that's a cool weapon, but it works and it's character appropriate, which always is going to matter more to me. If something is character appropriate, I will like it more. I like the color scheme she's got going on here. So you have quite a few tones, but obviously it's dominated by this blue color that is bookended by orange. So you have the orange going down around the edge of the skirt, and then obviously it's on this corset-like thing that she's got going on here as well. So I like the orange and blue. I think that looks good, and it actually complements rather well with the more subdued tones of this kind of cream color on the shoulders and the chest, as well as the brown of the straps. The mask is clearly that's what they put a lot of time into. That's what they want you to pay attention to. Very much like evil Louise Belcher from Bob's Burgers. Like, this is what she would grow up to be if maybe her parents hadn't been so loving. I don't know. I like that the mask is so beat up and it's chipped on one of the ears. Yeah, this one's good. This one's actually really good. It's interesting also that she's barefoot. I know it would become a bit of a running joke that obviously everybody that behavior makes, all the female killers, they're barefoot, and it's like, why though? Why do they all have to be barefoot? But this was still the point where it was actually perfectly in character. So I'm cool with it. Huntress, I give it an A. I think it's a really good design. I think they did a great job with Huntress. All right, Michael Myers. Obviously, the devs themselves did not design this particular killer, but I think that Michael is in many ways the gold standard for horror design. He has this perfect way of tapping into the uncanny valley, because you look at that, it's almost human. He's almost human. You almost know this guy, but you don't. There's something so dark about these eyes. Not just that that you can't see them very well unless the light hits it just right, but there's a certain malice behind these doll-like, shark-like eyes that I really think, honestly, really, really good. The hair looks great here. Hair has been one of the big issues for the Myers mask, as multiple new versions of the mask have been made for different films. DBD killed it here. This is a really good version of the hair. It looks really good without going as goofy as some of the other ones did. I'm actually partial to some of the other ones, but you know, to each their own. The only real complaint I have here is his hands seem disproportionately larger than the rest of his body. Maybe they intended that, maybe they didn't. I've just always thought that this model they did for Michael has very large hands. I'm not really going to count all for it. It's such a minor thing, but it is strange. I like his comically large kitchen knife. I can't personally say I've ever cooked with something necessarily that large, but I know that they exist. They're out there. It's not the work of fiction, so all right, that's fine. The overalls with what I'm going to call Tims. I know they're just work boots, but I like to imagine that, you know, Mike's repping Tims. Yeah, I think the whole look is actually rather solid, and I actually really like that they gave him a black undershirt instead of a white undershirt, because I think that a white undershirt would have taken away from the mask, which is obviously this very stark white, very, very uncanny thing. Giving him a black undershirt was a good call. He's obviously very intimidating in a way that goes beyond what you would have to say. Take the knife out of his hands, even take the mask off. If you're walking along a dark alley and you see somebody this tall, this muscular, you're going to be a little intimidated, because you're going to know this guy can cause me a lot of harm. Your fight or flight will activate. Very well designed in that regard. I give Michael an A. You know, not a lot to complain about. Maybe not quite perfect, but a lot to like. So Hag is going to be one who I think I'm going to get some pushback on, but I actually generally like the Hag's design. I think that it's a little, forgive me, a little muddled. I don't know. It almost sounds like muddied. That's why I thought it almost sounded like I was making some kind of a joke, but I don't know. It's not funny. You know, she's this creature of the mud, and yeah, I don't know. I think that her design generally, I mean, look, they went all in on the earth tones. There was a sale on earth tones, and behavior was just pushing everything into the cart. I get it. That's what they're going for here. I like her hair a lot. I think the hair looks really good in its own way, with like the twigs and all in it. You know, that's kind of a cool touch. And I like that she's got the strong hand. I like that you have this one fairly normal looking hand, and then you have the one that she's actually going to rip you apart with, the strong hand, which is actually fastened onto her body, which again, in terms of character details, it says, hey, what happened here? Why did you have to fasten your arm on? So that's kind of cool there, even if her lore is actually not that good. I'm sorry, but her lore is not actually fantastic. I feel like I need to keep her at this angle because I think YouTube's going to get me in trouble. She is very much a free the nipple type of gal, which will either, I guess, add points or subtract depending on who you are. But, you know, oh, she turned. She's like, oh, what were you talking about? This? Okay. Thank you, Lisa. Yeah, I don't know. I think that this is exactly what they were going for here. They nailed the look of what they were going for. This little gremlin of the swamps, right? And overall, I think it's pretty good. I think Hag has a pretty good design, if not a great design. Maybe going to get some pushback on this. I give it, I don't know. I like that there's like a touch of her humanity left in her face. That's what I really like about the design. B minus. B minus. I'm feeling generous. She gets a B minus. All right, Doctor. I struggle with the Doctor because he is a character of highs and lows. I love this thing that holds his mouth open, it's holding his eyes open, it's very Clockwork Orange. It's spooky. I love the lightning, or the electricity, I should say, not lightning. The electricity that is falling off of his body. I like his stature. I like how muscular he is. In so many ways, he is intimidating. However, okay, we'll start with some of the lesser offenses. The cut-off sleeves just make him look kind of douchey. I don't know. It's supposed to be intimidating, but more than anything, yeah, I don't know. It's almost like he's just really proud of his workout routine and he wants to show it off. And then there's the big issue. The big issue being his weapon, which I could go into what I think the weapon looks like. But you already know what I think the weapon looks like. And you probably think it looks like it too. It doesn't quite look like something I would be hitting people with unless it was like maybe a Saints Row game. But that's the decision they made. That's what they went with. So that holds the Doctor down. I do think that overall he's got a strong look. I like the wiring going throughout his body. That seems like the kind of thing that maybe, you know, he got taken in by the entity and the entity added all that. That's cool. Again, you're telling a story through the design of this character. I just look at it and I don't love the sleeves. I can get over them, but I don't love them. And the weapon is terrible. Outside of that, I think the rest of the design is really solid. In spite of my complaints, I still give the Doctor a B. I'm going to give a lot of Bs. I've always said, I think the behavior art team has done a fantastic job. The character designs are always on point. Almost always on point. Bubba. Bubba has a great look. It's hard for me to even find the time to talk about everything I love about this one. So let me just rattle it off, right? Let me just rattle off a few things. Firstly, I love the little tie. That adds so much personality to this character. It's totally unnecessary, but it's great. It's a little character detail. I love the back sweat. By giving him this back sweat, you actually kind of say something about where he's from, because Texas gets hot as hell. Nobody's denying that. The leather apron, I say leather, it may not, it's probably latex actually. Whatever it is, the apron looks great. The yellow pops against, you know, you have dark pants. And again, earth tones all around. The chainsaw is also yellow, so you get a little bit of continuity there in the color scheme. You get this red that really pops. The yellow and the red, you can say that maybe he stole my branding, or you could say he stole Hulk Hogan's branding. I don't know. Yellow and red just kind of everywhere. The hammer really speaks to the brutality of this particular character. And then the mask is really good. The mask actually might be the best mask in all of horror. I think that this film came out in the 70s. So we've had 50 years to get used to it. But that is human skin that has been made into a mask. It's so disturbing. He's got these black eyes, these crooked teeth. The whole thing is very intimidating. It's very messed up. A+. Really good. Okay, Freddy. Freddy has... It's impossible. It is impossible to talk about Freddy Krueger without knowing that there's a better Freddy out there. We talk about the Freddy in this game, but we know there's a better one. Even so, even in spite of that, Freddy's alright. So, he doesn't necessarily meet some of the criteria for being intimidating. He's got this very diminutive stature that is just... nobody's going to be particularly afraid of it. Of him, that is. If you see this guy walking past you, take the weapon out of the equation. Take the weapon out of the equation. He's not going to intimidate you. He's very small. I don't know what his exact height is, but compare him to Bubba. So like this is where Freddy's head ends. Look at that. Look at that difference. Freddy comes up to Bubba's neck. Freddy is very small. I still think the design itself is rather good. They did a good job of making him look more like a burn victim with this one, which the original design just didn't. He didn't look like a burn victim. He does here. The hat is interesting. The sweater, actually that's a good word for it, interesting. I think the sweater's interesting, the weapon's interesting, all of it's interesting. He's got so much that's memorable about him, that's kind of iconic in its own right. The stripes are great, and then he's got the best weapon, not just in the game, but the best weapon in all of horror. The knife glove is fantastic. It's one of those things, you can't see it and not know who that belongs to. It's a fantastic weapon. It's not just a sword, it's not just a knife, it's not just a gun, right? This is a very unique weapon that, again, speaks to the ingenuity of the character. So, while I don't love that this is the Jackie Earle Haley Freddy, and obviously this is black and red instead of red and green, which the sweater really should have been, there's still a lot of things to like about this one. For this particular version of Freddy, I will go with an A-. For the OG Freddy, we'd give that one an A+. Pig. Pig was interesting because they had the chance to do something kind of original with an established character. And I think they did a generally good job. So the pig head is very large, possibly oversized, and I actually think one reason, and maybe I'm wrong, one reason that this community has taken Pig on as they have is these adorable ears. She's just got these big Miss Piggy ears, and it's a little harder to realize that this is a severed pig head. Like, she almost looks too lifelike to be as intimidating as maybe they would like her to be. And part of that's also because the hair goes down and it hides the fact that, again, she's wearing a pig's head. It almost just looks like she is some kind of bipedal pig. Outside of that, you get the, what I'll call the acolyte robes from Saw. You know, this is something that all the Jigsaw killers end up wearing at some point in time. She's holding the reverse bear trap. She's got this Assassin's Creed blade hidden up under there. I don't know. This one's kind of tough because there's a lot that goes right for it, but I also just don't think it's necessarily picture perfect. I give it a B. It's all right. I like it. I don't hate it. It's a B. Now this is how you design a character. And you know what? You're going to think that I'm joking because it's like, oh, he's a clown main, so he's going to give the clown all kinds of credit. But this, to me, checks a lot of boxes for what I like. So you have bright, vivid colors, none of the earth tones you see for everybody else. What I really like is you have the story being told of this character, not just through his grime. Most of the characters are grimy, but look at his actual clothing. Notice that the pants do not fit. They're not long enough for him. It might be kind of hard to see because the game itself is kind of dark, but look at this. Okay, so the pants end here, then you have all this area before you actually get down to the foot itself. So you can tell that he's grown from the time that these pants were made. He's got this shirt, which clearly just does not fit him anymore. He's popping right out of it. The actual Ringmaster jacket that he has on seems to fit generally well, so I guess maybe he ordered that one up a size. I don't know. But these buttons are about to become projectiles at any point in time because that shirt, it's not fitting him. But yeah, so you can tell a little bit about the character through that. Obviously, he's got this fantastic little ring of fingers, which just a fantastic character detail. It's very intimidating. It's very spooky. I would be interested to know if he went around the circus with that on, and if people just thought it was a prop of some kind, because I'm of the opinion he was not very good at his job of being a secret serial killer. I think people were just overlooking him. But yeah, the face paint. The face paint is this is what you come for, right? This is why you're here. This is the iconic aspect of the character. So I love his messed up hair. He's balding up top. It's kind of showing some of his age. But then he's got this greasy, this smeared grease paint that is just running down his face. He's got little flecks of blood all over. His red nose is just about worn off. But the way he does his eye makeup makes it so that you lose his eyes in the process, which is great for such a vile, evil character, because the clown is in the top 3 most evil characters in all of Dead by Daylight. I don't even think that's up for debate. He's very evil. And that shows. So you have this face that really just pops. You could almost do something like that one scene in Halloween where Michael emerges from the darkness and you just see this white face come out of nothing. The clown could do something very similar. It's very spooky. I like that his gloves are falling apart. Again, character just oozes out of every pore of this design. This one, to me, A+. I love it. I think this is fantastic. Next up's the Spirit, and I just saw that we're already like 26 minutes in, so I'll try to click these off a little more quickly. I like the floating limbs a lot, and I also like that they gave her this very soft, very pretty, almost powder blue color, but then they gave her this harsh red from the blood and gore. Right? That's really good. The reflective nature of the glass is really cool, and again, I know you're getting sick of me saying it, but it really speaks to like, okay, I want to know more about this character. How did they get to this point? The hair floating is such a unique touch, and the fact that it looks like she hasn't slept in ages, and she looks so sad, right? She looks sad until, well, yeah, I was gonna say, there it goes. Then she snaps into this really vile, like, she's going back and forth between the nature of who she was and who she is now. Very good. I don't know why they did what they did to her toes. They are all bent up and crooked, and that just looks super painful. The weapon itself is cool. It's a katana. Are they overrated for their effectiveness? Yes. Are they overrated for their look? Hell no. The reason they're so famous and so beloved is because of that look. They have a great look. So overall, Spirit, this is a solid one. I give her an A-. I really, really like this design. Next up is the Legion. Now, you may like Julie, Susie, or Joey, but keep in mind, Frank is the base Legion member. And when you talk about Frank, there are some aspects of it that I wouldn't necessarily say I'm sold on. And then there's some things I really like. So I like this kind of run-of-the-mill jacket he's got going on. It is actually double jacket. He's got the hoodie underneath with the leather jacket on top. That's cool. He's incognito. He is the darkness among us. I said the name. Yeah, I get it. I get what they're going for there. The knife, very basic. Very basic in the sense that, well, I say basic. It's not basic, actually. It's this big hunting knife. But it's something that a civilian could realistically own without drawing any attention. So again, what they're going for there, very, very logical, I guess. It's very logical. The mask is fantastic. I really, really enjoy what they went for with this one. It's very much like Trapper. It's smiling, but that's betraying the fact... but that's not betraying, that's masking the fact that this is a very evil person. Even though Legion and Trapper they're both very obviously intimidating in spite of that. I like that he isn't a giant because you want this... If this is a character who's supposed to be somebody that maybe you went to high school with, maybe somebody you pass on the street, that's realistic. This is a guy you would pass on the street. And then the pants, it's kind of interesting. The pants are camo with this, what looks like almost a bullet casing belt. It's a little try-hard, but then again, I think the Legion are kind of try-hard themselves. So, yeah, I think it works. And then he's got the shoes that, these almost look like Chuck Taylors or something, which is so perfectly in character. You know, the more I talked about this one, the more or less I really don't have anything to complain about outside of the fact that it's a rather drab color scheme. So I can't believe I'm doing this because I thought I'd be harsher, but I'm going to go with another A- here. I like Lupin's. I think their design's really good, actually. But good is one thing. Great is another. Adiris has a perfect design. I mean, what would you change? Outside of the fact that she could be wearing shoes, obviously. But, again, I'm going to make an exception because her not wearing shoes shows off that she's missing one of her toes, which is a very specific lore-driven decision. Okay, fine. You keep coming up with reasons to not have them in shoes. Okay. The fact that she hits them with this, what are they? It's incense, obviously, but what do they call it? A censer. This is a censer. That is a really cool weapon. I think it's a really inspired decision, and it's one of them that when I watched the game, like when I watch people play the game, I should say, none of it would feel good to be hit with. Not Nemesis punching you, not clowns stabbing you, not Oni or Knight cutting you down, but there's something about the bluntness of this object that it just seems especially brutal. So I like that a lot. I like the way it's wrapped around her arm. That's great. And I love that you can see the tragic nature of this character in how she's designed. You have this very beautiful, very regal part, and then you have the Two-Face thing, right? Where the other side is decaying, and it's just horrible. You can tell that at one point in time this was a very beautiful person, but at the current moment she is just falling apart in a very literal sense of the word, or a very literal sense of the phrase. The actual color scheme here is great. You have the decaying flesh being contrasted with this very purity-based whiteness, this regality of gold, but then you actually have the rest of her body, which is covered in boils and falling apart. So A+. This one's great. When I look at a design, and I say there's nothing I would change, there's nothing I can improve here, it doesn't feel fair to give it anything but an A+. Also, I love the little ornaments on her fingers. Again, you have the regal side and the decaying side. That's absolutely what they are going for. Really, really good design for the plague here. Ghostface. Ghostface was a unique challenge for the DBD team because they had to take this mask that everybody knows, but they had to put it on a body that was entirely new. And obviously, I'm going to go to the store here really quickly. Obviously, this is the Ghostface most people know. This is the one with the little spiky almost robes. Yeah, I guess it's robes that they have going on here. And obviously most people know it, not even from this, which is the original Fun World cosmetic, but from the Scream movies where it was basically this, but with sparkles, as strange as that sounds. This was a really cool redesign. What they essentially did was made like tactical Ghostface, battle-ready Ghostface, and to me, it works. I think it's awesome. I think this is a really, really fantastic design. He's got the combat boots, he's got the straps, and the fact that the straps float is such a cool detail because, again, we are in the entity's realm now. Reality is what the entity wants it to be. This one's fantastic. I would change absolutely nothing about it. This is another A+. We got back-to-back A+. They were really feeling themselves about this time, right? Thank you, Mr. Demogorgon. This is a great design. As far as iconic monster designs go, they killed it with this one. This one's really fantastic. The head is obviously the selling point. The only issue I have with the head is that it's so intimidating when it opens its mouth, but it looks a little silly before it does. That's a minor gripe, but I'm going to tell you he's not going to make an A+, just because of little things that I don't necessarily love as much. I do like that it doesn't have eyes. And I like that it's got this just almost disgustingly pale skin color. Like me, by the way. You know, go on and call a spade a spade. If I'm going to say it about Demogorgon, I'll throw myself in there too, right? Both of us look like we've never seen the sun. You know, that's very creepy to a lot of people. It kind of, for whatever reason, stark whiteness triggers the uncanny valley for a lot of people. And I think that was probably an intentional decision with Demogorgon. I like how it's hunched over and still like 8 feet tall. I don't think you can see its height. Can you? No, it's just listed as tall. It's still very, very tall, despite the fact that it's slightly hunched. I like how muscular it is. The claws are fantastic. It's It's got these big dinosaur-looking feet. And then, oh, it's doing it right here. It can go down to all fours and be just as fast, if not faster. Really, really cool design. I love a good monster. Monsters are something that I don't really get tired of. I will say, maybe this is just me. I would have loved for it to have had a tail. Am I in the wrong here? Maybe it's more unsettling that it doesn't have a tail. Maybe giving it a tail would have made it more animalistic, whereas here it's almost this animal-human hybrid. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's an unpopular decision. It clearly doesn't seem like it wants a tail. It's yelling at me now. I like the Demogorgon's design. A-. Oni. Love the Oni. Oh man, I love the Oni. The Oni's great. So the Oni combines a few things. You get this mask, which is just 10 out of 10. Great mask. You get the hair that looks almost like smoke, almost like the wind. The hair is moving in this way that is just really, really striking. He's showing off his sword, so we're going to say the katana itself is really high quality. It looks great. And obviously, it's the same katana that the spirit has. So that's awesome. Even though hers is all broken up and it's intact for Kazan. That's really great. I think the Oni, he's got this immense size. He is just a beefy boy. Do I have the skin where he's like, he's got the one where he's actually like shirtless, essentially. You can see here, you can really see here just how muscular this character is. You've actually got a few where you can see how muscular he is. The Oni is very intimidating. They did a great job of making a killer who he takes up a lot of space. He's got a very intricate design all over. I mean, look at all this. But in spite of the intricacies, it's very legible, that's not an easy line to cross, an easy line to walk, I guess. The colors are great here. I wish that some of the reds would pop just a little more. I do like the Kanobo a lot. The Kanobo is an awesome weapon. It makes me think of For Honor every time I see it. But it's great. It's really cool, and obviously it's a dynamic design where things like the eyes start glowing, not only for the Oni himself, but on his armor. Pretty cool. Really good stuff here. Oni fans have a lot to like. I mean, they're eating good with this design. I give it an A. Next up, Slinger. Another one, I don't really have anything overtly negative to say about it. Yes, it's a very drab, dusty color scheme, I guess. But this is a guy who lives out in the desert. So that's very fitting. Again, sometimes what I'm looking for is just, is it character specific? And in the case of the Slinger, everything here is character specific. Everything here is very intentional. Obviously, he's got the Stetson, which, by the way, hate to be the one to say it, you've probably heard this, not actually all that accurate. Bowling hats were a lot more common in the Wild West, but the Stetson's way cooler, so go for it. The dusty overcoat, yeah, or what? Not I say the dusty overcoat. The duster coat is very cool. I like that he's got the bandolier going on here, where he can, which is interesting because he doesn't actually fire bullets. That's weird. Just now noticed that. It looks cool, but maybe not character specific. He's got the brace on his leg, which would indicate that he's been in some accidents before. And obviously, this is a very era-appropriate brace in that regard. You do have what looks like maybe a pistol holster down here, so I guess the entity just took his pistol. That's fair. That's fine. I won't count off for the bandolier. I like the little splash of red up here near the neck. It adds a little bit of color, as do the glowing eyes. The glowing eyes are very nice. The weapon, obviously that's going to steal the show here. I think the weapon's great. This one's a really good design. This is another A. And I know you're going to say, oh, Food, you are the easiest teacher on planet Earth. You are giving everybody really high scores. Again, if there's one thing to criticize Dead by Daylight for, it's not the character designs. They're really good. Next is Pyramid Head, one that DBD obviously did not come up with, but who has a very striking design. So there is a lot to like about this one. Now, we all know what they took from us. We all know what they nerfed, but we're still gonna go and we're gonna give this one a fair shake. I love so much about this, but you have to start with the titular Pyramid Head. What an inspired design. I mean, this thing is wildly impractical, but because it's Silent Hill, because of the context of the character, it works. Nobody questions it. And it looks great. It's very intimidating. As is the knife, which it's hilarious that this is a knife. This is the most Japanese video game understanding of a knife that I've ever seen, and I love it. It's perfect. Never change. The gloves are nice. It almost seems to indicate that for all of his brutishness, there is an air of actual intentionality and care behind the executioner, behind Pyramid Head. The boots look great. I'm a big boot guy. I think boots can really elevate your character in terms of design, and I think they look great here, even if, I mean, they're pretty simple. I'm not elevating it just a ton, but what I like about it is you have this white cream type color for things like the apron, the pants, the gloves, and then you have this, then you have the weapon, the helmet, the blood all over his back. You have this contrast, and the white really helps it to pop. So Pyramid Head has a great design. Another A+. Another A+. Killing it. Looks great. Looks really, really good. Blight. Blight is interesting because I know a lot of people probably really like the Blight's design, and I definitely don't hate it. There are things about it I really like. I like you can't really see it from here, can you? Yeah, there you go. You got a little angle there. This extra finger that he's grown is really cool. So he has 6 fingers on, is it both hands? Does he have 6 fingers on both hands? He does, yeah. So he's got 6 fingers on both hands. That's kind of cool. That talks to how he's been experimenting on himself. The mouth is interesting. It's definitely off-putting, and for a horror game, you do want to be off-putting. I like the glowing eyes, and I like that the hood comes down so you can't really see them either. He's obviously got this hunched over position. You can tell at one point in time he was more of a proper gentleman with the pants he's wearing, the shoes, the cane. There's this, again, they were going for Jekyll and Hyde, and they absolutely nailed that. That's very apparent with what they did here. I would say it's an alright design. I would say that you can clearly see what they were going for, and I think they mostly hit the mark. Now, is it perfect? I wouldn't necessarily say so. I don't know. I just feel like it's an alright design that I don't necessarily have any one thing I'm going to point to and say, oh, I hate that. It just isn't necessarily aesthetically pleasing. And I realize, again, they want it to be kind of disturbing with this goopy mouth and all that, but just because it's disturbing and you want it to be disturbing doesn't mean I necessarily like it. So I give it a B. It's a good design. I just don't know that it's a great design. Twins. Yeah, the gravy train had to end eventually. Eventually we were going to find one who... Look. I almost feel like Wings of Redemption, you know. Look here, listen. I think there are things to like about this one. You could say that for all the designs. Victor nesting inside of his sister is so bizarre and so messed up. I kind of love it. I think it's kind of great. I'm here for that. The scythe as a weapon. My issue with it... See, I wanted to compliment the scythe, but even that, I feel like it curves around too much where it's almost just like a circle. I wish the scythe would have stopped about here where my mouse is, right? I think that would have looked cooler. Make it almost less like a question mark and more like an actual scythe, right? Now, who knows? I'm not an expert on scythes. Maybe that's how they're supposed to look. I think it's strange that it looks to me like her shoes are different colors, maybe? One of them looks green and the other's almost a tannish color. Maybe they're both green and maybe it's just really faded. I don't know. Charlotte herself, I don't want to be mean, just not looking great. The girl could use a bit of a makeover. They were going for body horror, and in some ways they nailed it. I think Victor is really good in a lot of ways, and I think that Charlotte leaves a lot to be desired. I hate the hat. I understand they're going to be the people who make the case, oh, but it's era appropriate. Yeah, and it still looks dumb. Maybe people wore dumb hats in that era, okay? Deathslinger's hat is not era appropriate, but it looks cool, and I will always side with the rule of cool, or at least 9 times out of 10 I will. This big thing on her back is just kind of bulky. Again, is it related to the character? Yes, but does it look good? Not really. Overall, this one's not very good. I don't like this one. I give this design a D plus because I think Victor is just about perfect. I mean, wouldn't really change anything on Victor. Maybe slap some pants on him, but outside of that, this one's a bit of a missed opportunity. Then we have Trickster. Trickster is so interesting because I feel like the average person would either give him an A plus or an F. For my personal taste, I don't like him. I don't think he looks very good, but I do understand what they were going for. And I'm looking at him here and it's like, okay, he's not for me, but he clearly was made with a lot of intentionality. He pops. I think the bat itself is a pretty cool weapon. I don't have any issues with that. I think the bat's actually one of the cooler, more unique weapons. I like the overcoat that he's got going on a lot. I think that's solid. I think it's very character appropriate. I just feel like they dropped the ball somewhat with the pants, which almost look more like something Clown should be wearing. The boots are kind of forgettable in and of themselves. They were smart to make them handsome. It's a huge part of making it in the music industry in general, but it seems like a really big part of pop, and then specifically K-pop, is are you attractive? So they made him really attractive, and that works well to his benefit. Trickster's hard. He's hard to put here because, again, you have people who are going to despise this one and people who are going to love it. It is polarizing. I would say overall, I appreciate what they were going for, and I give it a B+. I hope people aren't too angry about that. Nemesis. Oh my gosh, this is great. This is just an action figure, isn't it? He just looks like a giant action figure. He's wearing his combat boots. He's all wrapped up like he's lunch meat or something. I don't know entirely what they were going for with that. He's got this thing that's pumping some kind of substance. I would imagine, even having played Resi 3, I'm kind of drawing a blank. I would imagine that's what keeps him all powered up. Because, I mean, he's made from genetic material of humans, so he's kind of this super creature. He's very intimidating. Oh my gosh, the fact that he doesn't carry a weapon is such a cool character decision. The fact that he is going to use his bare hands to kill you is really, really cool. I love that he does a better job than maybe Freddy or Hillbilly of kind of having the melted face. The teeth are so cool. I love this. I know some people love the original Nemesis design and hate the redesign. I think they're both really high quality, and I probably just barely prefer the newer design, but again, I do like them both. This one's an A. This one's really, really good. They did a great job, not only of redesigning him, but of bringing him to Dead by Daylight. Pinhead. So Pinhead is very striking in his design. This is a guy he's wearing all this BDSM-esque gear. He's got this stuff hanging out of the redness of the skin that shows how agitated it is. Really makes this hurt. But yeah, there's so much going on here. And then obviously one thing you have going on is his skin is absolutely just entirely blank. It is as white as snow. His eyes are pitch black. And then, oh yeah, he's got nails coming out of his head where he's got this grid design going on. This became iconic for a reason. I mean, there's not a lot about this one that you can criticize, especially because what you might criticize is, oh, well, it hurts to look at. As we've mentioned before, some characters are designed to be kind of hard to look at, and he's definitely meeting that criteria. I think Pinhead has a great design. I give this an A. Really, really like his look. Carmina. Carmina's one where I really start to put my foot down and say she should have been wearing shoes, damn it. Damn it, behavior with your thinly veiled fetishes. Damn it. But whatever. Okay, Bird Lady doesn't wear shoes. Is this what you're here for, you freaks? Oh my gosh, why? Why? But let's talk about what works right. The red dress with the black, almost feather-like design. Really good. She's got this porcelain skin that's got the ink dripping all over it. It's very off-putting. It's very upsetting. It's much like Plague in the sense of this just singular beauty who's been brought down and ruined by the entity. That's really cool. I think that the ink hand and the ink weapon are so inspired, so very cool. I don't know. I mean, her dress is all torn up, and You know, I almost would have just rather it have been a thing where it's kind of cut out on either side instead of being all torn up. Just a personal decision for me. I love the fact that the crow lady was given raven hair. A little on the nose, but I do like it a lot. Overall, this one has its downsides, like the feet, but overall, I think it does a lot more right than it does wrong. So, with that in mind, I'm gonna give this one an A-, not B+. We'll go B+ because there are just things I don't love, but B+, that's a respectable grade. Sadoko. This is a testament to how to do art with simplicity. Now keep in mind we have Sadoko on the screen. She's gonna jump scare you at some point. If you're a little, maybe you don't like jump scares, maybe jump to the next character. But Sadoko does a lot that I think is just really, really solid here. Not wearing shoes again, but finally the devs can say, hey, this wasn't our decision. And I guess, don't worry, it didn't get me either. I guess it wouldn't have made just a world of sense to put her in J's or something like that. So whatever. Sadoko is a fairly basic character design, but I think it's rather good. I like that she's missing her fingernails. That is gnarly. And again, character specific, the hair hanging over the face. That's Sadoko. That's what she does, right? It's iconic in its own right. She's got this very basic get up with the white nightgown. Again, you know, so much about it is just simplicity done to perfection. And by the way, I like that for DBD, when she hits you, you see the kanji, and that's her weapon. It's almost this manifestation of her hatred. That's cool. That's a really unique thing that they did here. So there are going to be people who think I'm crazy for this because there are a lot more complex designs out there. But Sadoko is great. I give this an A. This is really, really solid. Yeah, I can't believe I said it either, but I think it's really good. Dredge. If you've followed my channel for a while, since about last year when Dredge came out, you know I'm a big fan of the Dredge. I think the Dredge is great. And I really, really like what we have going on here. So I like, look at this, all these little, it almost looks like a little baby arm. You got all the fingers. You got these tendrils that come out to kind of hook the survivor in and pull him to Brazil. You have this scythe-like weapon. Now that's a scythe. That's, you know, take notes, twins. This is a much better scythe. You have the Dredge itself, where the head is intentionally, and I'm not going to hear anyone say otherwise, it is intentionally phallic. It's all really great. The only thing I don't love as much, maybe, is this collection of skulls, which is a little too, ooh, spooky collection of skulls. I would have changed that myself. I would have tried to go for something a little more, maybe ambiguous. I like that it just kind of floats on this darkness. It's this unknowable creature of the depths. It's almost, in its own way, it's almost the DBD equivalent of a Balrog from Lord of the Rings. And that's really cool to me. It's this creature of shadow and darkness, and that's really cool. The Dredge has a great design. This is an A-. I like it. Minor gripes only. Albert Whiskers. This guy... So, I was really generous to Trickster, even though I don't necessarily love his design. But I get it. Wesker's kind of the same way. I wouldn't personally say I love his design for Dead by Daylight. And I've been told that's an L take. L take, bro. You don't like Albert Wesker being in the game? L take. It doesn't matter. He's here now. I can't change anything about it. And he is a cool character. I just don't think his actual look is all that inspiring. I like the glowing eyes. It's almost like he was like, oh yeah, you don't like it? Check these out. I like it how the game is almost responding to my criticisms. There's just, it's so basic. It's such a basic look. The slicked back hair, the Matrix coat, the Matrix glasses, well, he's just from the Matrix, isn't he? I don't know. C-. And I know I just brought down the wrath of all of the Wesker fans. I'm sorry. I have to speak my piece. Knight is kind of an interesting one because I think knights are insanely cool. The medieval era. of combat. Had a lot of really cool looking gear. And what's really cool is they kind of combined some existing helmets, and they were so close. They were so close to doing the frog head helmet. But if you haven't seen it, it's one of the coolest helmets in all of history. They didn't quite commit to it, though. They almost did. You can tell they thought about it. This one's maybe too busy of a design. I wish the cape ran down a little longer. I'm not sure about the practicality of the spikes on the knee or the spikes on the shoulder. This feels like what some fantasy game designers do, where they just start adding spikes. I don't necessarily mind that he seems like he's holding his armor in place with these chains. That's kind of a cool detail. The sword itself looks great. I do take tremendous umbrage with the fact that this is the imposing claymore. Guys, okay, I get it. Marketplaces exist. Maybe the claymore ended up working its way into medieval Italy. I'd have to look into it. You know, I'd have to look at the history of the claymore. It would make a lot more sense for a Hungarian who lives in Italy to use something like a Zweihander, right? That's just my personal gripe there. Overall, it's not a big deal. The sword does look really good. I like his build is very intimidating. The hair hanging out is kind of strange. Overall, I think it's just an overly crowded design that could have been simplified and made a lot better. I don't mind that he's kind of rusty. I get it. He's supposed to look decrepit and run down a little bit, but yeah, this one's cool, but it could have been cooler. I give it a C+. I do love the knight, though. I'm one of the few who loves the knight. All right. You know what? No, I'm not doing this again. I do this all the time. Every time Skull Merchant comes up, I have to go through the whole rigmarole of, you know, if you like her, you're allowed to like her, blah, 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 blah. I do it every time. So I'm just going to say, I hate this design. It's an F. I don't like it. I'm not going through it again. If you like her, great. Awesome. I'm happy for you. I don't. I hate it all. I do like this one, though. I like the Singularity. Singularity has a very off-putting, very jarring design, but again, intentionally so. It's got this kind of creepy little mouth that's almost like what the grunts from Halo have, except this one's got all the wiring running into it. Clearly, they did a good job of making it look like it has eyes because of the electronics that it's wearing on its face. There's a lot going on. It's a busy design, and it's not a top tier one for me, but I do think that overall it accomplishes its goal of being this organic meets synthetic. They just pushed them together, and it's a cool hybrid. It's actually a pretty good note to end this one on. I think that also, by the way, we got another scythe. I didn't realize we were basically up to 3 scythe characters. That's kind of bizarre, because a scythe is not a weapon, okay? I stand corrected. A scythe is not a weapon. It's used for wheat. So unless you're going out there to kill wheat, a scythe is not an ideal weapon. However, that one looks pretty sharp, and I'm sure Hux knows how to use it. Overall, this one's all right. I would say it's a B-. I generally like it. I think it could be a lot worse, but you know, just because you say, oh well, we wanted it to be kind of discombobulated and overly busy. Okay, you wanted that, and you achieved it. So I'm not being cruel here. It could have been a little smoother to look at, but overall, I think it's good. I think there's a good design. I just don't necessarily think it's one of the top designs. So yeah, like I said, I think I gave it a B-. I'm okay to leave that at a B-. And I'm okay to leave this video at what looks like about 58 minutes currently. So I hope you had it on 1.5 times speed, 2.0 maybe, somewhere in between. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know down below what you would grade different things, because again, we're gonna disagree. Go on Skull Merchant Defenders. Let me hear about it. I know I'm wrong. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you are having a lovely day wherever you are. Let me just tab out of this one, and we will go on and send you on your way. So I hope you enjoyed it. And remember, keep your eyes peeled. We will be doing a Survivor equivalent of this, unless this one gets like 5 views, and then maybe I'll reconsider and say that's just not what they were feeling. But either way, hope you're having a lovely day. Take care wherever you are. And until next time, I've been Das Food. Bye, friends.
I've been dreaming on in my head like I've seen it. A life worth living is a life with me. scheming. I'll do what I love till my heart stops beating. I'm feeding this demon. Got a taste, can't erase bitterness in my